Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Chapter 7, Canto 4, The Sacrifice Performed by Daksha. Text 44. Vidyadhara uchuhu Tvanmayayartam apipadya. Oh, let's read the word for word first. No? Tvanmayayartam apipadya kalevaresmin. Tvanmayayartam apipadya kalevaresmin. Kritva mamaham iti dhurmati utpataisvaih. Kritva mam Kshiptopyasad vishayalalasa atma moham. Yusmat kathamrita nishevaka udvyudhasyet. Yusmat katamrita nishevaka udvyudhasyet. Vidyadhara uchuhu. Tvanmayayartam abhipadya kalevaresmin. Tvanmayayartam abhipadya kalevaresmin. Kritva mamaham iti dhurmatir utpataisvaih. Kritva mamaham iti dhurmatir utpataisvaih. Kshipto Kshiptopyasadvishayalasa atmamoham. Kshiptopyasadvishayalasa atmamoham. Yushmat katamrita nisevaka udvyudhasyet. Yusmat katamrita nisevaka udvyudhasyet. Vidyadhara uchuhu. Tvanmayayartam abhipadya kalevaresmin. Tvanmayayartam abhipadya kalevaresmin. Kritva mamaham iti dhurmati utpatai svai. Kritva mamaham iti dhurmati utpatai svai. Kshiptopyasad vishayalalasa atmamoham. Kshiptopyasad vishayalalasa atmamoham. Yushmat katamrita nisevaka udvyudhasyet. Yushmat katamrita nisevaka udvyudhasyet. Prabhus? Vidyadhara uchuhu. Tvanmayayartam abhipadya kalevaresmin. Kritva mamaham iti dhurmatir utpatai svai. Kshiptopyasad vishayalalasa atmamoham. Yusmat katamrita nisevaka udvyudhasyet. Mataji? Vidyadhara uchuhu. Tvanmayayartam apipadya kalevaresmin. Kritva mamaham iti dhurmatirutpatai svai. Kriptopyasad vishayalalasa atmamoham. Yusmat kathamrita nisevaka udvyudhasyet. Vidyadhara uchuhu. Tvanmayayartam abhipadya kalevaresmin. Kritva mamaham iti dhurmatir utpatai svai. Kshiptopyasad vishayalalasa atmamoham. Yusmat tamrita nivtsevaka udvyudhasyet. Word for word. Vidyadharaha. The Vidyadharas. Uchuhu said. Tvat mayaya. By your external potency. Artham. The human body. Abhipadya. After obtaining. Kalevare. In the body. Asmin. In this. Kritva. Having misidentified. Mama. Mine. Aham. I. Iti. Thus. Durmatihi. The ignorant person. Utpataihi. By wrong roads. Svaihi. By one's own belongings. Kshiptaha, distracted. Api, even. Asat, temporarily. Vishayalalasaha, having his happiness in sense objects. Atma moham, the illusion of the body as the self. Yushmat, your. Katha, topics. Amrita, nectar. Nishevakaha, relishing. Ut, from, a long distance. Vyudhasyet, can be delivered. Translation. The Vidyadhara said, "My dear Lord, this human form of body is meant for obtaining the highest perfectional objective, but impelled by your external energy, the living entity misidentifies himself with his body and with the material energy, and therefore, influenced by Maya, he wants to become happy by material enjoyment. He is misled and always attracted by temporary, illusory happiness. But your transcendental activities are so powerful that if one engages in the hearing and chanting of such topics, he can be delivered from illusion." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The human form of life is called arthada because the body can very nicely help the embodied soul to achieve the highest perfection. Prahlad Maharaj said that even though temporary, the body can give us the highest perfectional achievement. In this process of evolution from lower to higher grade of living, the human form of life is a great boon. But Maya is so strong that in spite of achieving this great boon of human form of life, we are influenced by temporary material happiness, and we forget our goal of life. We are attracted by things which cease to exist. The beginning of such attraction is the temporary body. In this horrible condition of life, there is only one way of liberation: to engage in the activities of transcendental chanting and hearing the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The words of Yushmat Katamrita Nishevaka mean those who engage in relishing the nectar of the topics of your Lordship, which are two narrative books, which especially concern the words of activities of Krishna. Bhagavad Gita is the instruction given by Krishna, and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the book containing topics exclusively about Krishna and his devotees. These two books are the special nectar of the words of Krishna. For those who engage in the preaching of these two Vedic literatures, it is very easy to get out of the illusory conditional life imposed upon us by Maya. The illusion is that the conditioned soul does not try to understand his spiritual identity. He is more interested in his external body, which is only a flash and which will be finished as soon as the time is designated. The whole atmosphere will change, and when the living entity has to transmigrate from one body to another under the spell of Maya, he will again be satisfied in a different atmosphere. This spell of Maya is called Avarnatmika Shakti, because it is so strong that the living entity is satisfied in any abominable condition, even if he is born as a worm living within the intestine of the abdomen and in the midst of urine and stool, still he is satisfied. This is the covering influence of Maya. But the human form of life is a chance to understand, and if one misses the opportunity, he is the most unfortunate. The way to get out of illusory Maya is to engage in the topics of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya advocates a process whereby everyone may remain in his present position without change, but simply hear from the proper authority source about Krishna. Lord Chaitanya advises everyone to spread the word of Krishna. He advises, all of you become spiritual masters. Your duty is simply to talk to whomever you meet. Of Krishna or the instructions given by Krishna. The International Society of Krishna Consciousness is operating for this purpose. We do not ask anyone to first change his position and then come to us. Instead, we invite everyone to come to us and simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Because we know that if one simply chants and hears the topics of Krishna, one's life will change. He will see a new light and his life will be successful. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangalam Gayate Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Mishwaram Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Stapatulation Matendrumna Samitanam Neno Prabhupada Prisa Jagannath Yatranandamurti Bhakta Sukena Krishna Kirtanina Smhena Rakshataya Namaha. Okay, so a very beautiful verse today, a very beautiful purport. Prabhupada very kindly gave a very long purport today. And many wonderful points are therein. Yeah? In this connection, I thought we could quote from other acharyas who are speaking on this very same point, and thereby get more inspiration to change and to utilize this most precious boon in the service of Krishna and the service of hearing and chanting his glories. Yeah? So in one of the songs from Narottam Das Thakur and from Prarthana, one of his 2 books that he wrote, there's one song called Ishta Deve Vigyapati, or Prayers to One's Beloved Lord. In this song, in the very first verse, he says, Manushya Jana Mapaya Radha Krishna Nabhajiya Janiya Shuniya Bisha Kainu. He says, O Hari, I have spent my life uselessly, having obtained a human form of birth. I have not worshipped Sri Radha Krishna, and therefore I have knowingly drunk poison. Right? It says Janiya Shunya. So Janiya means I knowingly, and Shunya says after hearing, having heard so many times, still I drank poison. Right? So I've heard this material life is full of misery. I've heard material enjoyment is useless so many times in class after class after class. But still, Janiya Shunya Bisha Kaino. I drank poison. Bisha means poison. Right? He says, the treasure of divine love of God, of Goloka Vrindavan, has descended as the congregational chanting of the Lord. Hari's holy name, as Hari's holy names. Why did my attraction for the chanting never come about? Day and night my heart burns from the fire of poison of worldliness, and I have not taken the means to relieve it. He's saying every day I'm suffering. Day and night I'm suffering. I feel this pain, that pain, headache, I have no money, I'm poor, I'm rich, I have to worry about my money, right? If you have money, you worry about it. If you don't have it, you worry about getting it. Both is suffering. Right? So day and night I'm suffering in this material world, but I have not done anything about it, right? He says, I have not taken the means by which to relieve it, right? He says, the treasure of divine love of Goloka Vrindavan has descended as the congregational chanting of Hari's holy names. And still, my taste for it never come. And this is Narottam Das Thakur talking, right? In the 3rd verse he says, Lord Krishna, who is the son of King of Braja, became the son of Sachi, Lord Chaitanya, and Balaram became Nitai. The holy name delivered all those souls who were lowly and wretched, like the 2 sinners, Jagai and Madai. They are the evidence of this, right? He says, Tara Shakshi, Jagai Madai. Shakshi means evidence, proof. And the evidence that this holy name works is that it even managed to deliver Jagai Madai. Sometimes in classes and in dramas, Jagai and Madai are portrayed as very funny, drunk, dancing, and doing different things. But if you actually read the description of their activities, they're horrible, the worst terrorists. Right? They would burn people alive, burn their houses alive, rape people non-stop. Right? They were horrible people. Most sinful, most sinful. But by the power of the holy name and by the causeless mercy of Lord Nityananda, they were delivered. And so Narottam Das Thakur is saying, Tara Shakshi Jagai Madai. They are the proof that this holy name works. If the holy name was able to deliver even such wretched people as Jagai Madai, why haven't I not taken up this process of chanting? I see it works. I know it works. Janiya Shunya Bishakainu. I know it works. I've heard that it's going to work, and still I'm drinking poison. Narottam Das Thakur so perfectly puts it in this song, right? In the 4th verse, he says, "O Lord Krishna, the son of Nanda, accompanied by the daughter of Vrishabhanu, please be merciful to me." Now, Narottam Das says, "O Lord, please do not push me away from your reddish lotus feet. For who is my beloved except for you?" Right? So such a beautiful song of Narottam Das Thakur, Hari Hari Bifale Janama Goainu. It's a very beautiful song. And Prabhupada has given many classes on this song. If you go in Veda base and you write this word down, you'll see room conversations, classes in which Prabhupada is singing the song and giving the purport. Beautiful, beautiful purports, like some little parts I took out. This is a room conversation with the Sanskrit professor, Dr. Sunesan, or Sunson, I'm not sure. Chanting, he's talking about Adi Lila 7-59. Now Prabhupada says, Narottam Das Thakur singing, Hari Hari Bifale Janama Goainu. My dear Lord, I have simply wasted my time, Bifale, without profit, because I got this human form of life, but I missed the opportunity for worshipping Radha Krishna. Manushya Janama Paya, Radha Krishna Nabajiya. And by doing this, I have taken poison, knowingly, Janiya, Shunya Bishakainu. Then, Golokera Premadana, Harinama Sankirtana. This Nama Sankirtan is not any material thing, it is the ecstatic love of Krishna, and in Goloka Vrindavan. Right? So there's many beautiful purports Prabhupada gives on this song. So if you please have some time, just listen. There's actually recordings. You can just listen to the purports Prabhupada is giving on these different songs. Another song is there, also by Narottam Das Thakur in this connection, which is very famous, Nitai Parakamala. Yeah, it's talking about the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. And Prabhupada loves this song. Many times he quoted it, and in a very famous class he gave in Bhuvaneshwar in February 2nd, 1977. He sang this song and gave a very beautiful purport on this song. You can also go to Vedabase and you'll be able to find the recording of this song. So I'll just chant the verses and read the translations and then go into Prabhupada's purport on the song. So, Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Susitala Je Chayai Jagata Jurai Heno Nitai Dhine Bhai Radha Krishna Paite Nai Dridha Kori Dharo Nitair Pai. The lotus feet of Lord Nityananda are the shelter where one will get the soothing moonlight, not only of one, but of millions of moons. If the world wants to have real peace, it should take shelter of Lord Nityananda. Unless one takes shelter under the shade of Lord Nityananda's feet, lotus feet, it will be very difficult for him to approach Radha and Krishna. If one actually wants to enter into the dancing party of Radha and Krishna, he must firmly catch hold of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Right? The 2nd verse, he says, anyone who has not established his relationship with Nityananda Prabhu is understood to have spoiled this valuable human birth. Such a human being is actually an uncontrollable animal, because he never uttered the holy name of Nityananda. He has become merged into so-called material happiness. What can his useless education and family traditions do for him? Verse 3, being maddened after false prestige and identification with the body, one is thinking, oh, what is Nityananda? What can he do for me? I don't care. The result is that he's accepting something false as something true. If you actually want to approach the association of Radha and Krishna, you must first achieve the mercy of Lord Nityananda. When he is merciful towards you, you'll be able to approach Radha and Krishna. Therefore, you should firmly grasp the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Last verse. The lotus feet of Nityananda are not illusion. They are fact. One who engages in transcendental loving service of Nityananda is also transcendental. Always try to catch the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. This Narottam Das is very unhappy. Therefore, I am praying to Lord Nityananda to make me happy. My dear Lord, please keep me close to your lotus feet. Srila Narottam Das Thakur ki. So Prabhupada says in the purport to the song, he's saying in translation to verse 2, he says that if you're anxious to go back home, back to Godhead, and become associate of Radha and Krishna, then the best policy is to take shelter of Nityananda. Then he says, Se sambandha nahi jar, prita janma gelotar. One who has not been able to contact Nityananda, then one should think himself that he has simply spoiled his valuable human life. Brita janma gelotar. Brita means for nothing, and janma means life. Gelotar means spoiled, because he has not made connection with Nityananda. The Nityananda, the very name suggests, Nitya means eternal, and Ananda means pleasure. Material pleasure is not eternal. That is the distinction. Therefore, those who are intelligent, they are not interested with this flickering pleasure of material world. Every one of us, as a living entity, we are searching after pleasure. But the pleasure which we are seeking, that is flickering, temporary. That is not pleasure. Real pleasure is Nityananda, eternal pleasure. So anyone who has no contact with Nityananda is to be understood as having his life spoiled. Narottam Das Thakur uses the very harsh word. He says that such a human being is an animal, an uncontrollable animal, as there are no animals that cannot be tamed. There are some animals that cannot be tamed. So anyone who has not contacted Nityananda, he should be considered an untamed animal. Sei poshu boro durachar. Why? Because Nitai na bolila muke. He never uttered the name of Nityananda. And majilo samsara shuke. He has become merged in material happiness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Right? So Prabhupada is so perfectly putting it here that if anyone wants to be eternally happy, right? We all want to be eternally happy in this material world. If you do want to be eternally happy, then take surrender to Nityananda, the eternal pleasure-giving potency, the eternal pleasure, right? Nityananda means he's eternally happy, eternally full of pleasure. So if we want to be eternally happy, we have to surrender unto him. And for those who do not take advantage of this human form of life to surrender unto his lotus feet, they are Sei poshu boro durachar. They're completely uncontrollable animals because their senses are pulling them here and there, uncontrolled. Right? So Narottam Das Thakur, he very perfectly puts it in Prabhupada in the purport. He perfectly puts it that we have to use this most precious boon of human form of life to go back to Godhead and to surrender unto the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. And only by that way will we achieve Nityananda, eternal happiness in the spiritual world or in the service of the Lord. Yeah? So there's many wonderful songs by the Acharyas which perfectly give us the instructions of the Lord and the information of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita and all the books in such a simple and perfect way by expressing their own feelings of love. And so by studying the songs of the Acharyas, we also can derive great inspiration and understanding how to further understand the purports of Srila Prabhupada, as Prabhupada has put it so perfectly here. Right? There's also another story that I would like to add for another point that Prabhupada points out in this purport. In the purport it says, this spell of Maya is called Avaranatmika Shakti because it is so strong. Jai Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki. Because it is so strong that the living entity is satisfied in any abominable condition, even if he is being a worm living within the intestine or abdomen in the midst of urine and stool, still he is satisfied. This is the covering influence, Maya. Right? In the purport, in a class he mentioned, actually it was just in a class, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 6, Canto 6, Chapter 1, verse 19. So Prabhupada mentions a story in which Indra becomes cursed to become a pig on earth, right? He disrespected his spiritual master Brihaspati, and so he was cursed. In some places it's mentioned that Narada Muni cursed him, in other places it's mentioned that Brihaspati cursed him, right? Prabhupada mentions Brihaspati, so we'll use that. and he was cursed to become a pig for X amount of years on earth. And so once that time was up, the curse was served, and it was time for him to come back to the heavenly planets. He wasn't coming back. And so they began to be worried. They were like, where is Indra? How can, the seat of Indra cannot remain empty for that long. The universe needs to be managed, etc. And so Brahma went down to find Indra and bring him back. And Indra was there in the form of a hog, enjoying life to such a great extent. He was very happy with his wives. He had a few wives. He was very powerful. Obviously, he's Indra. He was a powerful hog. But he was a pig still. He had a few wives, which he thought were very beautiful, right, as a pig. He had many piglets, beautiful children, pigs, little pigs. And he was very happy. He governed the most perfect spot in which the people would go every morning to relieve themselves. That was his spot. No other pigs could come in, so he would get the fresh stool from the village. Right? He was very proud and very happy in this pig form. So you can see that Indra was completely bewildered. He had the greatest enjoyment in this world, right? A few classes ago we were talking about the happiness, right? And I think Indra was at 1 trillion the times the happiness, right? So he had that happiness. But in the form of a pig, by the illusory potency of Maya, he was satisfied in a pig's form, and he was happy. He considered himself happy in that most degraded form as a pig. Right? And Brahma had to come and remind him and say, hey, what are you doing? And he said, no, I can't leave my family. I can't leave my wife and my piglets. They depend on me. I'm very happy here. I don't want to go back to Svargaloka. Brahma had to kill him for him to be able to give up this life and be like, oh my God, what nonsense was I thinking? And so he went back to the heavenly planets. But you can see the power of Maya by this story. Prabhupada was showing the power that Maya is able to cover us up. And in any situation we find ourselves into, we can actually think Maya convinces us that somehow or another we will be happy in this situation. Somehow or another I will find pleasure. Somehow or another I'll be able to derive some enjoyment from the situation. Doesn't matter how abominable, like Indra in the form of a pig. Yeah? So we have to understand by this story, and we have to understand by this purport, that this material life is full of misery. And it's useless. This material life will flash by. Like Prabhupada says, it's a flash. It's a flash. It'll be gone in a flash. And if we don't utilize it, as Narottam Das Thakur says, then we are simply animals. We are simply uncontrolled animals, because the animal life, at least they have regulated eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But in the human form of life, because of our superior intelligence, we can choose beyond our material condition, and we can have the freedom to choose and do even worse than animals can do. Uncontrolled animals, because unregulated. So therefore we have to take advantage of this material, of this human form of life, and go back to Godhead or surrender to the Lord within this life, not another one. Yeah? There is another point also in which we can derive from this purport, is that this material body is a boon, in which it's a vehicle. Like Mahaprabhu was saying in his lecture, he was saying that we are given this material body in which we can serve the Lord. But if we do not take care of it, we are not able to serve the Lord. And so we have to take care of this boon, right? We have to make sure that we are in a healthy state so we can serve the Lord. We have to make sure that we're mentally happy, as Mahaprabhu was saying, right? The mind is just as much a part of this body as any other part. If we have a scratch, if we have a cut, right, we take care of it, right? We do not just leave it, we take care of it. Otherwise, it will get infected. So if you have a problem in your mind, if you're feeling upset, if you're feeling not happy, if you're not feeling inspired, you have to find a way to relieve it, whatever it may be. Going to your spiritual master, finding a devotee who can help you, going to a psychiatrist, whatever it may be, for us to be able to continue serving the Lord, unencumbered, right, without distraction. There we'll be able to take proper advantage of this body, of this material human form of life, and be able to continue serving the Lord, right? So also, after my initiation ceremony in 2013, Jananivasu and Pankajanipu were there, and they told me that, Pankajanipu specifically, he told me that material enjoyment, or let's say enjoyment in this material world, is like salt. So if you put too much, it becomes tasteless, right? You can't enjoy it. It means you can't follow your regulative sadhana. If you put too little, it becomes too dry. right? Tasteless. And you're not able to find inspiration to eat it or to have it. And so from this we can understand that sometimes we, in the service of the Lord, in the service of different things, there's some things that we might want to do outside of the service of the Lord to be able to give us that little bit of happiness. Let's say eating some nice feast, right? Even though prasadam is directly, there's a part of that which is our enjoyment. There's nothing wrong with that either, because it gives us inspiration to do more service, right? Let's say we like to go hiking in the mountain. That's also fine. As long as it's not gross material enjoyment, if it gives us more inspiration to the next day be able to go continue our sadhana, that's okay. Just like adding salt to a sabji, as Pankajani Prabhu said. And then how do we know that we're adding too much? How do we know that we're doing too much material enjoyment? When we no longer want to perform our sadhana. When it decreases our inspiration to do our sadhana, to do our devotional service, that means you're doing too much material enjoyment. Yeah, so it's a very easy way of regulating our material, quote-unquote, material enjoyment, is that if it's increasing our desire to perform our sadhana, then that is favorable. If it's decreasing our desire to perform our sadhana and to perform our devotional service, then it is unfavorable, right? Prabhupada sometimes would say the brahmacharis should do wrestling. Why did he say that? Wrestling is a material activity? No, because brahmacharis have passion, they're young, they have energy. And if they don't utilize that, it'll be misused somewhere else. So by utilizing that energy in wrestling, they will be able to focus more on their studies, focus more on their classes, focus more on their preaching, right? So there's different things in this material world that we can utilize to help our mind, which is part of this human form of body, to be able to focus. Yeah, so if we find ourselves sometimes completely uninspired to do anything, sometimes we should think, okay, maybe I'll go for a walk, right? Go see a nice lake, go for a swim. And in that way, satisfy that desire to enjoy in the mind in a very subtle and helpful way that might be even, how would I say, utilized in the Lord's service, and therefore be able to continue our devotional service without any distraction. Yeah? So there's many different points we can derive from this purport, but these were a few that I thought were important and I would like to mention. Most importantly, of course, is to understand that this material world is a place of suffering, and we have to take advantage of this boon, this human form of life that we got, to surrender unto the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, as mentioned by Narottam Das Thakur. Yeah? So if anyone has any questions or comments you'd like to add. Yes, Prabhu.
How do we establish a relationship with Nityananda Prabhu? Because after all, when we grew up in the West, Nityananda Prabhu, he's some Indian saint, kind of, and even in the scriptures like Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavat, Nityananda Prabhu, although glorified, also his avatuta side is often shown. So how to establish a really deep relationship with Nityananda Prabhu? I mean, relationship really means like relate to him.
Yeah. Beautiful question, Prabhu. Thank you so much. For those who didn't hear, Ramananda Prabhu was asking how to develop a relationship with Nityananda Prabhu, how to establish that connection. As mentioned in the song, it says, say sambandha. Sambandha means relationship, or beginning of a relationship. So if you're not able to establish that connection, Prabhupada used the words connection with Nityananda Prabhu. So the way in which we can establish our connection with Nityananda Prabhu is by understanding that he is the most merciful incarnation of the Lord. He came in Nityananda Prabhu, and as Ramananda Prabhu mentioned, he came in this kind of avadut form, avadut mentality, that he was out of this world. He didn't care who you are, what you're doing. He would just give you love of Krishna. Him and Haridas Thakur, they used to go door to door knocking, and they used to say, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, just chant the name of the Lord, just worship the Lord. If you're in the, right, grihete, grihetako, vanetako. If you're living at home, if you're living in the forest, doesn't matter. Worship Lord Krishna, worship the Lord. And so by understanding that he is the most merciful and we are the most fallen, therefore we connect. Right? If you're looking for help and you're looking for someone to help you, you find a person who's willing to help you, you immediately are able to establish a connection with that person. So by hearing the pastimes of the Lord and understanding that he is willing to give his mercy to everyone and anyone, and not only that, he is looking for you to give his mercy. All he's asking for is the faith in the holy name. Right? There's so many pastimes in which Nityananda Prabhu delivered hosts of people simply because he was so full of ecstatic love of prema that he was giving to everyone. And for that, Narottam Das Thakur so clearly mentions the Tara Shakshi Jagai Madai, right? The proof of this is Jagai Madai. They were so sinful, so abominable. And when Nityananda Prabhu saw them, right, they were, I don't remember exactly what they were doing, but they were drunk, walking in the street, beating up people, right? And from far, Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu could see them doing this. And Nityananda Prabhu said, we have to go deliver those two. He was not like, okay, let's go somewhere else. No, he was like, those two, we're getting those two. They're the most fallen, and therefore they deserve the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. They need it so much. And Haridas Thakur said, no, forget it. Like, no, we're going to get beat up. We have to leave. Nityananda Prabhu said, no, we're getting those two. Finally, Haridas Thakur managed somehow or another to convince, actually they went and they started preaching to Nityananda Prabhu, to Jagai Madai. And just narrowly they managed to escape. Jagai Madai was trying to grab them and beat them up. Narrowly they managed to escape. But Nityananda Prabhu was not satisfied. He wanted to deliver them. So next day or a few days later, when they were on the side of the Ganga, again they bumped into each other. Nityananda Prabhu took advantage and wanted to preach to them. But of course, as we know the story, right? Was it Jagai or Madai who threw the rock? Madai threw the rock, no?
I think I'm not sure. I always confuse.
Yeah, which one?
I thought Jagai.
Jagai. I remember Madai.
I think Madai.
Yeah.
Because
He was the one, no? Madai, because he's the drunkard.
Because Nityananda delivered Madai is known as Madai Jivana.
Yeah. True. Right? So he broke the pot, the pot of wine that was there, and he threw it at Nityananda Prabhu's head. And so blood was pouring out of Nityananda Prabhu's head. But still, he was telling them, please chant the name of Krishna. Please surrender to Krishna. Surrender your life to Krishna. And Jagai, seeing this, he understood that this person is a great personality. So he stopped Madai from injuring Nityananda Prabhu any further. And of course, we know the pastime, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and displayed his Sudarshan Chakra to kill them both. But Nityananda Prabhu, what did he do? He said, no, this is not your purpose. In previous ages, you came in this mood. What are you doing? This is not your mood anymore. You came to deliver them. Doesn't matter. We know they're fallen. We know that. Don't do this, right? And he begged them. And to soften Mahaprabhu's heart, what did he say? He started glorifying Jagai, right? He said, Jagai protected me. He didn't say Madai is bad, don't protect him, but protect Jagai. No, he said he wanted to just simply change Mahaprabhu's mentality by showing compassion. So he said, Jagai protected me. He performed service. So Mahaprabhu gave his mercy to Jagai and delivered him. And then Madai, understanding what's happened, right? He was like, oh, you're being unfair. We did everything together. We burnt villages together. We raped together. We did everything together. Now you're picking him over me. How is this? And so Mahaprabhu explained that he was protecting my devotee while you injured him. The only way you can achieve salvation is by surrendering to the lotus feet of the person you hurt. So he grabbed Nityananda Prabhu's feet. So lucky that he managed to grab Nityananda Prabhu's feet. And therefore, he was delivered. And then there's that beautiful pastime described when they came in the association of all the devotees and they received all the mercy. Mahaprabhu hugged them and took that darkish, sinful complexion that they had, took it upon himself. Right? There's a beautiful story, and you should definitely read the pastime of Jagai Madai, because therefore we can understand the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, and we can understand the glories of him and how he's the most merciful. And as we said, we are the most fallen, Nityananda Prabhu most merciful. He's our connection. He's our way back to Godhead. He's our way to achieve the mercy of Sri Sri Radha Krishna, as mentioned here. Right? And the translation to the first verse. Right? Unless one takes shelter under the shade of the lotus feet of Nityananda, it is very difficult for him to approach Sri Radha Krishna. If one actually wants to enter into the dancing party of Sri Radha Krishna, he must firmly catch hold of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. And in that way, we can establish a connection with Nityananda Prabhu. Is that satisfactory, Ramananda Prabhu?
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Jai Prabhu. Any other questions?
Pray for me that I can
Jai. You pray for me too, Prabhu. Any other questions or comments? No? Jai. So let us take advantage of every day in this service of the Lord, which is, as mentioned by Srila Prabhupada, every day is a festival, and every day we can take the opportunity. But let's take... Mariji has a question.
There's a similar story in the Greek mythology when the Argonauts, they were caught in the Kirkis island, the witch, and they became pigs because they were over-enjoying.
Really?
Yeah. There are many similarities actually in Greek mythology with, from Bhagavatam.
All showing the same purports.
Yeah, I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
How can we not become pigs?
Well, the pastime with Indra becoming a pig, the exact reason what he was doing wrong, I think was in the same lines, right? He was too much engrossed in his material enjoyment that he didn't show proper respect to his spiritual master. He was too much bewildered by the enjoyment he was experiencing. And as we know, 1 trillion times the enjoyment of the greatest king on earth is a lot of enjoyment. And so he was bewildered. And so Brihaspati told him that because you're so engrossed in this gross material enjoyment that you're not realizing what you're doing. So therefore, go and enjoy that kind of gross material enjoyment somewhere else. And therefore he was done. So we have to, by this story, we can understand that we cannot become overly enraptured or overly entangled in material enjoyment. And we have to, as mentioned by Pankajani Prabhu, like salt. Only if it increases our desire to perform devotional service, or it helps us continue and focus again. If we see our mind is becoming too bewildered, sometimes a little bit of material, quote-unquote material enjoyment, but it's not really. You know, you can go on a nice chapa walk in a mountain, you can go for a swim with devotees, you can have a nice, gathering in your house. And even if you're talking just about day-to-day things, you're in the association of devotees. And so there's different ways in which we can, again, put our mind in the proper road, the proper way to go back to God, the proper way of devotional service. And sometimes little things like that help, but only if it increases. If we become bewildered and we lose our interest in devotional service, therefore that's too much. Yeah. So taking care of the body, this boon that we have to be able to perform our devotional service is very important. But at the same time, as Prabhupada mentioned here, we have to also become disgusted with this material world and understand that we don't want to be here. So we have to do the bare minimum of material enjoyment only to be able to continue doing our devotional service. And not like a pig, become completely blind and enjoying the most abominable things and thinking it's very good. Yeah. Yeah? Yes, ma'am.
For going back to Godhead, do we have to become pure devotees?
Prabhupada, one time Prabhupada was asked this question. He was asked, Prabhupada, to be able to go back to Godhead, do we have to be 100% Krishna conscious? And Prabhupada said, yes, 100% Krishna conscious. And he could see that the devotees were completely dejected, like, how are we going to be 100% Krishna conscious? And so Prabhupada said, actually, if you're 70% Krishna conscious, you can still go back to Godhead. And so he finished the class, and he started walking, and then he turned around. Javatak Maharaj tells this story very nicely. The Prabhupada was walking down at Vyasasana, and he turned to the crowd, and he said, 50%, still you'll be able to go back to God. And then he walks a little bit more, and just as he's leaving the room, he went down from 50, and then at the end he said 10%. If you're 10% Krishna conscious, still you'll be able to go back to God. And he left, and everybody said, Jai Prabhupada, right? So that's Prabhupada's causeless mercy. It's his causeless mercy. He will take us back to Godhead. All he's asking for is the minimal effort, the minimum amount of effort, right? But we shouldn't think, start taking out our day and then every minute we think about Krishna. Okay, 1 minute Krishna, 2 minute Krishna, and then divide it. Are we 10%? No, that's not what we should think. We should aim for 100 and surrender fully to the lotus feet of our spiritual master and the devotees and hope that they will make the other 90% so that we can go back to Godhead. Yeah, there was a beautiful pastime. Actually, I was just listening to it yesterday. Narada Muni, Nalakuvara Manigriva, right? The pastime of Damodar, right? So sometimes we'll think that these were demigods, and the pastime, how they're enjoying in the river, right, with the naked ladies, and Narada Muni comes, and they're completely bewildered. How did these demigods, be able to get the opportunity to be delivered by Krishna himself? And not only Krishna himself, but Krishna as Damodar, such a beautiful form, right? Other demigods, they, thousands of years, they suffer. How did these two people get that opportunity, such a great opportunity? And not only that, it's mentioned in the Gopal Champu that they weren't only delivered back to demigods, they were delivered to the Goloka Vrindavan. Nalakvara Manigriva are in the court of Nanda Maharaj in Goloka Vrindavan. Right? They tell him stories and they recite songs and they glorify Krishna in the court of Nanda Maharaj. So how did they achieve that? And so it's described by Baladev Vidyabhushan, I think. He's describing that Narada Muni, taking mercy on them, gave his causeless mercy and giving his word that he would deliver them. Because after he cursed them to become trees, they became very repentant and they asked for his mercy. And so he gave them the ultimate mercy. And he said, you will be delivered by Krishna. And so Krishna, not wanting the word of his devotee to go in vain, he did the rest. But it was all by the mercy of Narada Muni. So sometimes that question is put up, I think, in the commentary, Baladev Vidyabhushan is asking the question, who gave the greatest mercy to Nalakvara Manigriva? Right? And so they're saying, some people say Krishna gave. No, Narada Muni gave the highest. Because the causeless mercy is just like a Sankirtan devotee going up on the street. He's giving you the mercy of giving you the book. Right? And through him, Prabhupada and all the Parampara is entering and all their mercy is coming to you. And so what have you done to be able to be eligible to be in that moment and saying a devotee, in associating with devotee, receiving the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or whatever book you buy? You've done nothing. That's all the mercy. So that 90% is the mercy of the devotees, and we just need to try achieve that 10%. We go for 100, but by the mercy of the devotees and by the mercy of causeless mercy of the previous acharyas, the Lord will make their word or make their mercy come true.
And that's especially the season of this Kali Yuga.
Yes. Only this Kali Yuga. Right? Very fortunate, very fortunate. I mean, there are examples like Nalakvara Manigriva, that was in Treta Yuga, right? In Dwapara Yuga, sorry. That was in Dwapara Yuga. So there are examples in other Yuga, but it was much more rare. It was very rare for someone to be able to receive this kind of mercy. But in Kali Yuga, it's just person after person, right? This person, that person. How many people achieved the highest perfection by so many devotees who were freely giving love of Godhead? There's so many pastimes with Abhiram Das Thakur, who we know as Sridham, right, in the spiritual world. So Abhiram Das Thakur, he had a whip. A whip, it was like a stick with a whip at the end. And it was the whip of pure bhakti. He would just go around and just hit people, and they would get pure bhakti, pure bhakti, pure bhakti, because he was in that mood like Nityananda Prabhu. He was avadut. He was a gopa in the spiritual world. So he didn't care about the rules and regulations or how this world functions or anything. He was just giving pure bhakti, have pure bhakti, take pure bhakti. You don't want it, I'm still going to give it to you. So those pastimes we see only in this age, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and gives freely the holy name. Yeah. Thank you so much. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki, Narottam Das Thakur ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi.